Everyone saying Mike. I'm like, what? What?
Can our legal counsel report our actions in closed session?
Yes, thank you, Chair Wong. The board considered 5 items in closed session, 5.1 through 5.3. There was no reportable action. Item 5.5, the closed session minutes, those were approved on a 5-0 vote. Item 5.5 has been tabled and will be taken up at the end of this meeting under number 19 of the agenda. And item 5.6, medical staff credentialing, those were approved on a 5-0 vote.
Thank you so much for that. Item number 9, deletions and corrections to the posted agenda. I do have an item that I need to have done now in order to prevent prolonging any other input from our audience. So can I have Dylan? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Chairwoman and Board of Directors. Dylan Crosby, I'm the Director of Facilities, Construction, and Safety Officer for the health system. So wanted to give the Board of Directors and all our attendees an update on our services in Tahoe City. So first thing, Monday morning this week, we got a call of a potential fire over at our Tahoe City space. It was at 905 North Lake Boulevard, which houses all...
The mic, please. Thank you.
How's that on? Good?
Yes.
Perfect. Which houses all of our physical therapy services, wellness services, and our lab draw services. So we've been challenged over there. We did have a loss of power for quite some time that morning, also for our primary care and urgent care. So we've been recovering from that event. So where we stand today is our primary care and urgent care is open and seeing patients, and we're in a quote-unquote normal operation. In addition to that, we've also been able to achieve moving our outpatient lab service. So we'll be ready to start seeing patients for outpatient lab on Monday morning this coming week. I believe that's the 29th, if I'm not mistaken. And we continue to work with the building owners and the local jurisdiction to bring back therapy services to Tahoe City. So currently, 905 North Lake Boulevard is red tag, so there's a process that needs to be gone through from the owner's perspective to get repairs made, corrections made, inspections, and make sure that the building is safe for occupancy. And during that time, we have moved as many patients as possible, as well as all of our therapists, to our therapy service lines in Truckee and Tahoe City to try to accommodate as many patients as possible. We've also worked at those 2 locations to ensure we have the capacity we need and try to be as efficient as possible so we can see as many patients. So it will still take some time so that we can return our services back to Tahoe City for therapy services, but we are working on that diligently. There's a team meeting of about 30 of us every morning. We do have our incident command opening, so we're putting a lot of effort. And I just want to acknowledge really the staff. I think I could sit up here for an hour and name all the individuals, but just the coordination and collaboration from all the staff across the district, whether it's operational, leadership or staff, it's our access center, our marketing team, lab staff, facilities, IT did a tremendous job to get everything running. Everybody's really come together to get these services back in operation as soon as possible. Happy to answer any questions.
I have a question, Dylan, thank you. Is there any anticipation of needing to use the Fabian Way space?
We are looking at that as an opportunity.
Have we heard from the state about any kind of relief on that space?
So we've been working and connecting with them, but we have not got a final ruling on the application. We do have an active application into them now that's under review.
So we have no time that we can look at having service over there in the area anymore?
Not at this time. We don't have any direct time that we'll get therapy services back up and running, but we are evaluating numerous options so that we can pivot as necessary and collaborating with all our local partners, North Lake Fire, as well as Placer County and the building owners to really see what provides the best opportunity to get services up as soon as possible.
Okay. All right, thank you for that update and another challenge.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking the time.
So going back to 9, are any deletions or corrections to our posted agenda? Okay,
The only correction was what I noted, that 5.5 is going to be moved to 19 for the closed session.
all right, thank you. We'll move on to item 10, and this is audience input. And I just want to remind everybody that there is a time limit on it. It's 3 minutes. It's not agendized, so again, there can't be any discussion at this time. We may, if it's important that we want some kind of update on it, then we will pass it on to staff to further discuss. So I'm going to open it up right now.
Thank you.
Is
Good
the microphone
evening.
on?
I'm John Sorensen. I'm a full-time resident for 15 years. Am I on here? Yes, I am. Not sure who that
Should be red.
It's,
Okay. Okay, I'm a member of 100% Renewable Truckee and our local Citizens Climate Lobby. And so that's who I'm speaking for tonight. I'm making this public comment to express our strong appreciation for the greenhouse gas emitted chloride of Tahoe Forest system that the hospital's management has taken on with the help of Zetti consultants. By undertaking this effort to better understand and quantify your carbon footprint, you paved the way for informed decision-making aimed at reducing emissions from your operation. This will support and add to our trucking community's efforts to mitigate the climate change threat we all face. That includes reducing its impact on public health. We look forward to you sharing the results of this study with our community. As for everyone, transparency fosters trust, and your efforts will add encouragement to all of us to contribute to the collective efforts towards mitigating climate change damage. Also, I want to note that the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, or CMS, has proposed a building decarbonization voluntary program where they are inviting hospitals to share their emissions metrics with CMS. It's called the Team Decarbonization and Resilience Initiative. Their intent is to better understand how to reduce greenhouse gas emissions within the healthcare sector and how to improve patient outcomes as a result. In return for your participation, Tahoe Forest would receive public recognition from CMS plus individualized feedback to help improve your decarbonization strategies over time. Please take a look at this offer when you can find it. You can find it at cms.gov. Thank you.
thank you.
Chair, I understand we've lost that mic, so maybe we need to use a...
Okay. Dr. Koch, can you step over here to use this mic while he works on that?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Before you start your timer, I have timed my words, and I will be 3.5 to 4 minutes. And so it will not go over 4 minutes, but I would like permission in advance to extend beyond 3 minutes. And if not, then perhaps somebody in the audience would be willing to donate a minute of their time to me. Is that acceptable?
If someone wishes to donate their time
I'll donate it.
for 4 minutes, so you have your 4 minutes.
Great, thank you. So, for the record, my name is Johanna Koch. I'm here today to speak about a matter of my heart and of my conscience. I have taken care of this community for almost 40 years. Tahoe Forest has been my hospital. It's where I send my patients, and it's where I come for my medical care. I have served on the executive committee for over 20 years, among other roles, including as a practicing physician, of course. I have participated in fundraising events to support the healthcare system. I tell you this just so that you will understand that I have a deep commitment to this organization and this community. After spending my career dedicated to building the best possible medical community, I now see it crumbling around me. I believe I have an obligation to speak up, and that's why I'm here today. Our medical staff's well-being is what drove me not to simply volunteer, but to seek out the role of chief of staff. The medical staff has profoundly low satisfaction scores with high burnout rates and has for over 4 years, as you all well know. These low scores lead to real risks to the quality of care and the safety of our patients, and the scores are not improving. This was driven home at the board meeting in August of 2022 when we had a showing similar to this, only more so, at the Zoom meeting. Effective action was not taken on this issue, and at that time, nor since. Our CEO has not been held accountable for remedying this situation. As a result of that, we continue to suffer the effects and live with the consequences. It is my hope that, or it was my hope, that by stepping into this position, I could help drive the change that we so badly need here. I've been chief of staff for 16 months. I have another 8 to go. And so far, instead of the progress I'd hoped to see, there has been a sense of hopelessness settling over our medical staff. I am here today because by walking you through my journey, you will come to see, I hope, the role that you, each of you board members, must play in order to change our future. We need you to step up now. There are members of the medical staff in this room today that are hesitant or will refuse to stand up and speak out of fear for retaliation by our CEO. There are also members of the medical staff who wanted to be here but were not willing due to fear of retaliation from our CEO. If this does not concern the board, then you are not paying attention. The medical staff does not have confidence in Mr. Weiss. We do not find him to be forthright, honest, or transparent with us. We do not pretend to fully understand the job of the CEO. However, we do recognize that we are working in a profoundly dysfunctional environment. Mr. Weiss has been disruptive to the medical staff since he arrived, and the behavior exhibited has only escalated even more rapidly in the last few years. If the board does not take action, we will be losing people who are not only excellent providers, but are loyal to this hospital and this community. This is a value that you cannot put a price on. We also will be degrading the quality of care and the very things that support this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cook. And if you could come over here, Dr. Kamenetsky. Oh, it's okay.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kamenetsky. I'm a radiologist here at Tahoe Forest Hospital. I've worked here since 1998, and I have some thoughts I'd like to share with you. Learning from early work experience, our radiology group found that we were able to recruit more seasoned and highly qualified candidates for the radiology positions if we were transparent with physicians during the recruiting process. The members who joined our group when we were contractors started on equal terms in pay and schedule from day one and had access to all personal performance metrics and compensation. All members were encouraged to share their thoughts freely, regardless of their seniority. This was fruitful in nurturing a working culture of collegiality that many experienced radiologists joining the group found hard to believe. This same process of transparency and collaboration was encouraged between the radiology group and the 5 different administrations that we have worked with. During our radiology operations meetings, we consistently shared data in regards to the number of studies being performed within the hospital district. This allowed the 2 parties to assess in a collaborative manner how the business was growing, how to bring updated technology to the district, and to change staffing and scheduling based on ever-changing needs. We didn't always agree, but we worked with each other. Unfortunately, the nature of this successful relationship has changed dramatically. Many of you have received emails from the radiologists regarding numerous episodes that have resulted in an alarming degradation of trust between the radiology group and administration. Formally exchanged information and viewpoints are now poorly communicated along the chain of command, veiled behind cryptic issues of compliance and attorney-client privilege. Regretfully, in my opinion, current administration no longer works in a collaborative manner with itself or the radiology group. The work environment is hostile. The culture is changing, and it's changing under your watch. I encourage you to investigate as many sources as possible to uncover the undercurrents which you may not be aware of that are going through the hospital. Physicians are scared to speak out, and that's because of retaliation, which has occurred. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak. This is a culture of fear. Did you all hear the tremulousness in Dr. Koch's voice? Do you feel the energy in this room right now? We need to take a few moments here to acknowledge the situation. Your position to not evaluate your CEO is unacceptable. It's a detriment to this community. You should be ashamed that you've done nothing. I recently resigned as wellness officer of Tahoe Forest, and I went into the office to address Harry and tender my resignation with Brian present. And I was told by Harry in an email, and I'm happy to share that email, that I'm not obliged to share these comments. I'm going to share these comments with you, my comments to Harry now in this forum. And I want to say that my wife, Jocelyn Kreis, who's the only MD psychiatrist in this community, doesn't want me here right now. Don't lose your job, Josh. I'm resigning from my position as wellness officer. I'm happy to share my reasons for resignations, but don't have to. If I share them with you, I first ask that you agree to maintain my position as a staff neurologist and stroke director, and they both agreed. Reasons for resignations. Our visions of the hospital are not aligned. My focus is on the clinician experience and by extension, patient experience. My observation is that your focus is on optics, and I was addressing you, Harry. How does the board perceive me? This approach can get in the way of my ability to achieve desired outcomes as wellness officer. Your repeated insistence on staying in each person's lane and respecting chain of command is your second driving force. This reflects a style of top-down leadership that drives provider demoralization, which is inversely related to provider morale. You seem to equate dissent or feedback as a sign of disloyalty, and seem to have created a team that is willing to allow that style of leadership to go unchecked. This generates an atmosphere of fear. Only silence and subordination are available to those of us who serve under you. I have not seen you demonstrate openness to the dyadic leadership model, which is a cooperative leadership model between administration and clinicians, which is the model at Mayo, Stanford, Sutter, among other great smaller health systems. This is a model that has led to improved provider morale. I believe that this must be the future for our health system success. The changes that Dr. Gray recommended, including creating a wellness officer and a partnership council, have been implemented on paper but have not been allowed to blossom. I believe that this is due to your leadership style. I see that your leadership style has led you to not...
Your 3 minutes. You want to finish your sentence and your 3 minutes will be up.
Can someone give me 30 seconds?
30
Would that be
seconds.
okay, Alice?
Okay, who?
Could someone please give me a minute?
Okay, so Dr. Plum.
Thanks, Dr. Plum. I see that your leadership style has led you to not being connected with the clinician community. I see that your leadership style has led you to not being connected with the Truckee community, and you were removed from your community relations responsibilities with regard to the master plan. I feel disrespected when you speak to me through others, including Brian, rather than communicate with me directly. Your rhetoric in terms of team of one does not match up to the reality of relations between clinicians and administrators at Tahoe Forest. Silos are the norm here. The left hand does not speak to the right. That's why it feels nearly impossible to get anything done. And finally, you do not listen. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Do we have any other audience input?
Hello, everyone. I'm Pam Hobday. I've been a volunteer with this hospital for 23 years, and I know most of you personally. And I'm deeply concerned for this hospital right now. Deeply concerned. And I'm the only community person here tonight, I think. You're here too. A different subject. Maybe you could come on board with this subject. But believe me, for the next board meetings, I'm going to fill this place with our community. There has to be transparency to this community and what is going on. I know that each of you in your heart have some form of care, deep care, for giving so much to this community as elected officials. But we elect you. This is a community hospital. It is not a private hospital. This whole issue of outsourcing, our radiology is just a series of things. But I'd like to propose at the next board meeting, you lead a workshop for physicians, for community leaders, for people who are interested from the community to come, and let's hear from the radiologist, let's hear from other physicians as to how this is going to impact our community. I haven't known about this for a very long time. But if this impacts patient care, the community needs to know about it. And I know you're supposed to be a policy board, not involved in operations. But anything that impacts this community, we need to have transparency and have a say in. So in talking with many department heads today, and hearing their concerns about just this one issue. And I was on that call, that Zoom call, as you all were about 2 years ago, with over 50 physicians talking about the culture. In this workshop, I'd like for the community to have an update on the culture survey, the best that we could legally. But there are a lot of unhappy physicians here. This community relies on this hospital. I urge you to take what I'm saying seriously. I want to have a workshop. I want us to have transparency. I want to hear the community hear from the physicians and from you, your perspective. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks for letting us speak here. I'm Dr. Winans, Nina Winans. It's interesting, I didn't know what everyone else was going to say, but these were my 3 big challenges that I see as our community of what we lack in our culture right now: transparency, communication, and respect. And it's all been said. I'm coming here as a community member, and also as a physician here for 30 years. And in that position, I have been working very closely with all of our community partners in outreach programs, reaching thousands and thousands of our young student athletes in particular, but throughout the community. And this sense that you're feeling in this room of lack of respect, it's not just the physicians and our PAs and our nurse practitioners, it is other partners in our community. This is very serious. Historically, our medical staff here has been incredibly connected. The talent we have, the way we work together is incredible, and that has eroded over the last really 5 to 8 years. And you may have noticed, some of you, that when we came in, we were hugging each other, saying hi to each other. We don't get a chance to be together and to do that collaboration. There has been what appears to be a very clear goal to separate us and have us be in our silos. And I think in those silos, we put our head down, we work hard, we care about our patients. We are doing everything we can to take care of our patient and our community, but we are spitting against the wind. It doesn't feel good. And you heard it 2 years ago, and we are not satisfied with the changes that have happened. Yes, you heard Josh say it. We have positions of leadership. We are not truly listened to. We are not truly heard. We are not really given the opportunity to be part of the solution. Everybody in this room wants to roll up their sleeves and make this hospital what we love again. We want to make it what it should be, the top hospital in a mountain community. And we care about every one of our patients, the entire community. We come here for our care. I'm getting older. I want care for the next 30 years. And I really hope you truly listen and truly hear and act. And you need to act now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other audience input? Okay. Hearing none or seeing none, we'll close public comment. We'll have public comment from the Employees Association. So if there's any employees that would like to give input. Okay. Well, we've had a lot of audience input and none are employees, but I do want to say we have heard you. We have been in discussions, and we thank you. So we're going to move on now to our Medical Staff Executive Committee, and if Dr. Koch will do our MEC meeting consent agenda.
So this is the consent agenda, which is just policies that have been approved, and if people would like to take their opportunity to leave now, I think the part of the meeting that you wanted to be here for has passed.
I guess it won't, it's not going to be as exciting, huh? It's not as exciting, they're all leaving.
The rest of the meeting?
Yeah. Okay, Dr. Koch?
Okay, so the consent agenda consists of one significant change in the medical staff rules and regulations. And this change is in order to bring us into compliance with state and federal laws. We've apparently been out of compliance for about 2 years, but I was just informed of that 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago, and we've been working diligently toward that goal, and this was our solution for it. The IDPC committee requires voting nurses. But nurses aren't allowed to vote on MEC, and the IDPC committee was underneath the MEC, so they could not have nurses voting. So it was a catch-22. And so our solution was to move the IDPC committee from under the medical staff, and now it is under the quality committee. And as such, it does not report to the medical staff, and therefore nurses are allowed to vote, as is required by the state and the federal government. And this was the only legal solution that we could find. And so all of the changes in the document reflect the changes required to move the IDPC from med staff to quality. We did preserve the seat on the MEC for a member of the APP community, so they continue to have non-voting representation, so we did not interrupt that piece of it. And would you like me to go through each of the changes, or is that an adequate explanation?
I think that's
That's
Yeah,
fine.
we've
had
read them, and I just wanted the explanation for why there was that change in that one category, so you provided that, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from this side of our board? Okay. If not, can I have a motion to approve the medical executive?
Public comment?
Oh, I'm sorry, public comments. Okay, hearing none, then can I have a motion to accept the medical executive committee meeting consent agenda?
So moved.
Oh, okay. A second, please.
Second.
It's been moved by Director Brown and seconded by Director Barnett that we approve the Medical Executive Committee consent agenda as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So the consent agenda has been approved. Thank you so much. Then we'll move on to item 13, and that's the consent calendar. And these are generally non-controversial reports by our chief officers, as well as any policies that have gone through other committees and have had their approval. So is there anything under the consent calendar that our board would like to pull? So hearing none. Oops.
Actually, I'm sorry. Yeah, I would just, and Joyce left, never mind. I had a question about the emergency on-call policy.
Okay, that's a board policy. Your microphone.
Item 13.4 on the consent calendar was the approval of the on-call policy, emergency on-call policy, and it itemizes the specialties that are desired to have on-call, and I noticed that there was no mention of neurology. And given the fact that we had, 10 neurology or stroke patients in the month of March, I was wondering about an on-call neurologist.
It isn't an EMTALA specialty for us because that's really based on our low number of in-person docs. We do have a very valuable telemedicine neurology program, but neurology and even like GI and ENT and other programs are not a part of our EMTALA list because we just don't have the team to take care of all of that. Teleneurology is very important, but it doesn't let us step up to being a EMTALA neurology program.
Is there a requirement of what has to be on call by CMS or?
You have to have enough personnel, so every critical access or rural hospital has its own unique list of EMTALA specialties, and ours has been pretty static over the last 9 years. But because in many areas we only have 1 or 2 persons or 3 persons, and that's not enough for it to be an EMTALA specialty. So we have, to serve our community, we have put in place telemedicine like in psych or neurology, but that doesn't mean that it's a EMTALA service. And these are really EMTALA services.
Do any of our staff have any background as well on it?
Do you want to pull this item so that you guys can have a discussion about it?
No, the description Harry gave was accurate. There's certain specialties we're required to have on-call 24/7 with a certain response time, including OBGYN, pediatrics, general surgery. But neurology is not typically one of the ones a critical access hospital would be required to have. But we have stroke teleneurology available 24/7 with a very rapid turnaround time because we're a stroke center.
Okay. Mary, does that?
That answers my question. Thank you.
Okay.
And do you know what MTLS, emergency medicine transfer?
Okay, so we have a motion on the table right now to approve the emergency on-call.
Well, this is for the entire consent.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's right.
Public comment.
I got so caught up on policy.
Don't get so much energy at the start of the meeting, yeah.
Whoa. Okay, can we have a motion to accept the,
I'll move to approve the consent calendar.
thank you. A second, please?
Second?
Okay, it's been moved by Director McGarry, second by Director Brown, to approve the consent calendar as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the consent calendar is approved as presented. Now we'll move on to items for board discussion. 14.1 is our Tar Connect pilot program update, and I think Ted is going to introduce it, and then we'll have a discussion by, I forgot your name.
Well, I'll give it. Thank you, Chair Wong. Directors Ted Owens, Executive Director of Governance. I'm very pleased actually tonight to introduce to you Alfred Knotts. Alfred is the Transportation Program Manager for the town of Truckee. Very good partner, very good friend. And he's going to share with you findings. This will be actually some good news this evening. Findings over 3 pilot programs with TART Connect, which, as you know, is a just dial up or utilize your phone to your door service to where you're going. So he'll give you more of a universal presentation, but also some very specific to Tahoe Forest information and data. So with that, I'd like to introduce Alfred Knotts. Alfred.
Get turned it off. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the hospital board. Alfred Knotts. I'm with the town of Truckee. I'm the Transportation Program Manager. And want to first off thank you and Ted as well. Ted's been a very, very big champion of this program. And if it wasn't so successful, I wouldn't be here to share all these highlights with you. I probably put too much information in my presentation, so bear with me. I will get to some details and specifics that I know are of interest of the board. But with that, we can move on to the next slide, Sarah. Thank you. Or can I do it right here? Okay. Thank you. Again, probably too much information, but I do want to put this in context. This is really our town council critical priorities right now, and we've been kind of going through our budgeting process, and I like to harken back to this because this really is a program that touches on so many different levels of our community, whether it's housing, it's access to employment, it's access to medical services. It's just mobility for everybody from the smallest child. We don't let, obviously, infants on there, but I know you've seen children around on our program, but also to the most elder senior within our community, also touching on environmental sustainability, emergency preparedness, all of these things. There's really not a program, I think, that's come forward recently within the town, and I'm not saying that in a selfish sense, that touches on so many of these aspects. So that really has played into the council's decision to invest in almost $4 million over the last 18 months in transit. And historically, and no fault of the town or the town councils now or previous, there's never really been a general fund contribution to transit within the town. I spent 18 years working in the Tahoe Basin, so I'm very familiar with the town's program and everything, and it's really been a very, very social service focused transportation service. You know, we operate from 6 in the morning, 6:30 in the morning till 6:30 in the evening. Our headways, it's not really built to move a lot of people except those people that are really transit dependent, which is done a very good job of. But we'll see a lot of detail on how this program has really branched out and really provided a lot of access and mobility and freedom, really, for all aspects of our community. A focus of our transportation program really is we're really not trying to build our way out of congestion. You know, it's not really what our town wants. It's not what we did in Tahoe. You build more roads, you add more cars. We're really trying to move people and not cars. So this is kind of the sweet spot of what our transportation emphasis really is. We do build infrastructure when we need to. We build our roundabouts. We build other connections, if you will, like the Church Street connection but we really aren't trying to widen our highways. So we really try to find the sweet spot of our service enhancements, and that's what we're here to talk about. But we've also been focusing on our trail networks and all things like that. And I do want to thank the hospital also for the bike share hosting as well. That was a program I launched here. I've been with the town about 2.5 years, but these are my 2 priority initiatives since I've come to the town. So the background is this pilot has been kind of ongoing, but it's been different iterations. We had a summer pilot, then it was very successful. We had a little bit of a hiatus in the fall of, I believe it would be 2022. Then we came back in the winter and we started the program up, and then that's when, council had seen a lot of the numbers and the data that the service has been very, very successful, very well received. And since then, we've continued on with the pilot, and there will be a discussion I'll touch on a little bit later about how do we continue this program, and that's what I'm kind of here tonight to talk about as well. We did expand the service. Before, it was really focused on Tahoe Donner area and Glenshire as well, and then the downtown core, and that was really because of a color of money thing. We got Tahoe Donner dollars from the special service area there. We got it from Glenshire as well. And then also we got Visit Truckee Tahoe dollars, and then we also got funding from the hospital to be able to fund kind of the downtown core in this zone specifically. And then the town council voted to really fund a town-wide program, and that's the program you see today that serves the whole town fare-free. So the operations, again, kind of went through this a little bit. I know this is a little wonky, if you will, having too much detail, but we do provide 9 vehicles right now, our average wait time. I know during the day it can fluctuate very drastically. We do get day-to-day reports from our operators, so we add vehicles the next day. Or we knew we kind of see peaks throughout the day, which is typically around that 3 to 6 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's when you see our maximum amount of vehicles, and then we have 9 vehicles out there at maximum, and that's is what provided for within our budget. We also equip the vehicles with ski racks and bike racks. We know those are trips that people want to make, and they want to bring their equipment with them. And parking at trailheads and those types of things are an issue too that we're trying to mitigate and reduce. People can go to a trailhead or to Legacy or whatever it might be, Tahoe Donner, without their car and without worry of parking. And you'll see a lot of the information also about that's been a very big, I won't call it a selling point, but a very attractive trip purpose or something that people will really want to use the service for. So our trip patterns here, again, a lot of information, but I feel it's incumbent upon me to be before you today since you've been funders about some accountability and transparency about, what have you gotten for your dollars. So over the last couple of months, you can see that analysis. So to put it in perspective real quick, our transit system before TART Connect was launched, we carried about 30,000 people annually. When I lived in Tahoe and when I went and left for a little while and I was the director of transportation for Park City, Utah, we carried 2 million people in Park City. Wow. So we carried 30,000 people here. And with the addition of TART Connect now, we've broken the 200,000 passenger mark in 18 months. So huge difference. This 590 trips per day, that's about as many people we would have carried in about 2 weeks on our old system. So it's been very consistent throughout too. So a lot of residents are using it. This is not just built for the visitor. We don't see a lot of downtick or drop in ridership throughout the week. We actually see it being very, very consistent and just high demand. So we do look at this data again. Like I said, we don't just throw out the vehicles. We look at time of day, and then we'll be able to add those vehicles as necessary. So those are differences in day throughout the season. Or throughout the day, through peaks, and then throughout the day of the week as well. So again, a lot of information, but hopefully you guys have this presentation accessible to you for down the road. Patterns. I do kind of want to get into this a little bit. I know you got a full board agenda here tonight, but again, that ridership is consistent. Most are residents, so we're carrying out 60% of residents, so that's been very attractive, especially to our council. Is the perception, having, like I said, lived in a resort town for the last 25 years, whether it be Tahoe or Park City or here, the perception is it's always built for the visitor. What's it for me? Why are you doing this for the visitor? This is really being used by both the visitor, but also the resident. People getting to work, getting to appointments, obviously, and we'll see some of the data for the hospital zone. All kind of rider ages also, we did notice that the ridership is very low for the teenagers. I think that they're very numb to probably filling out the survey every time they take a ride. So not super reflective, because we do know there's a lot of teenagers out there that are using it. We do see that within our heat maps where we can see where people are actually getting picked up and getting dropped off. So this is the heat map here. I know it's going to be kind of, a little overwhelming, but I think we all kind of know where our landmarks are, and we can kind of see where these trip patterns are and the focus area. And the hospital is one of those big trip areas or trip origin and destinations, and then also just down the whole Donner Pass corridor for the most part. And a lot of that has to do with people accessing jobs and employment, but also medical services and so on.
Go back to that previous slide. Could you
Yes,
kind
ma'am.
of show me where the hospital is in all of that?
If I don't turn this thing off, hopefully. So,
It won't show up on the TV.
They won't see the TV, yeah.
oh, sorry. So we're down over in here.
Okay.
Yeah. And so this is kind of commercial row here, and then you'll see the gateway area right there.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. Again, so this is a lot of data, but one thing I wanted to point out here is, so you're familiar with our smaller blue buses that go around, not necessarily even the dial-up, but the fixed route one. So each passenger on that vehicle costs about $30 to move. Our dial-a-ride passengers cost almost $76 per passenger. With our new service, we've gotten this number down to about $10 to $14 per passenger. So yes, it has been expensive, but so is our other services that are very, very, even triple, quadruple the cost. So this is far more efficient, far more responsive. Right now our dial-a-ride requires a 24-hour advance scheduling, and we can only meet so much demand. This is on demand. You can book the ride that day if a medical appointment comes up, or you have an accident, you can't drive physically. You can book that ride immediately versus, hey, I got to register. We have to go through an eligibility process, and then we got to make sure that you're determined to be able to use the service. That does not exist with this service. So very, very efficient. The other thing that we did try to bring down, or bring up actually, was our shared ride percentage is very low when we kick this off. So are we really mitigating a trip if we're carrying one person in a vehicle? That's a fair question. And at first we weren't to the extent that we wanted to be. We were carrying about 20% was our shared rides. Now we're up to 60% shared rides. And I think a lot of that does have to also do to the fact now that we are town-wide. Before, with that 20%, you'd pick up one person, but the zone didn't allow you to pick up other people because we didn't serve that. So now town-wide, it's a far more efficient, and we can fill those seats, which is exactly what we want to do. Wait times, I know wait times can be an issue. We all know that. Some of that is just due to also the demand, but sometimes it can be to also just other congestion on the road. It can be when drivers turn over also. But really, it's just, a lot of it's a product of the success of the program as well. So we do try to keep those time limits down. Trying to think if there's anything else here of super value, but yeah, our customer experience. So the app provides a rating. We're at about 4.9 of a 5 rating. Our average ride time, that's not the wait time, is about 12 minutes. So once you do get in there, even if you do have to pick up another passenger, your ride still isn't 45 minutes. We're still sticking to that 12 or 15 to 16 minutes to get across town. Now this is a lot of information, so I won't go through this, but one of the things that, that Ted has asked, and actually our police department has asked a lot of times, does this reduce drinking and driving and DUIs? We do have a road safety plan that was developed with a Caltrans grant, and one of the biggest issues within the town was drinking and driving in those accidents. They may not be fatal, thank the Lord, but they can be very damaging to, obviously traumatic. They can be damaging to property and so on. So one of the reasons people do use the service, 46% say to avoid drinking and driving. So we do want people to come to town. We have a resort town. We have a resort economy. People go out and they spend money and they enjoy our town, but we want them to get home safely also. So parking hassles is another identification. So Councilman Zabriskie is very, and actually all of our council members, very focused on reducing traffic, reducing parking impacts. Parking is very expensive to build. One of our parking spaces within downtown costs about $40,000 to build. After we build it, we obviously have to maintain it. So the less we can build, the more we can get capacity out of other parts of our system and get people to where they need to be through other means. This being one, we like to see that. And we like to see that that's actually a decision point also. Access to recreation events, we know those are one of our main trips within town, whether it's number one is going to work, number two is dropping off your kids at school, number three is a recreation-based trip. So we're meeting that demand also. I think for the most part, yeah, one of the things why people don't use it is those wait times. So we do try to keep those down, and we do try to monitor that also. But I think with the app also, what it does allow for is it does manage people's expectations too. You know, when you are waiting for a bus and it's late, or you may have missed it, and you don't really know until you've waited maybe another 30 minutes and it hasn't come. At least with the app, you can actually see, okay, it's going to be 20 minutes. I can deal with that. I can do a few more things around my house, or I can go walk the dog, but I know it's coming, and you can see on the app where it is. So that type of certainty is very well received by the passenger. So again, this is just a reflection of kind of that snapshot of data that was in the narrative there, but there's a graphical representation that also. And medical appointments is up there as well. So we have 13% of that. Medical appointments are one of the trip purposes, which is actually 13% is rather high. When we look at our other portion of our transit system, it's far, far lower for that type of a trip purpose. I think, yes, kind of beat this to death. So unless anyone has any more questions on this one. Yeah, I don't think there's too much more. So the question about the VMT, and I know I'm not here to talk about, reducing vehicle miles traveled to everyone, but we have 6 electric vehicles that we have got a grant for over the last year, and we will be switching to electric vehicles too, so that will essentially mitigate that tailpipe emission component that we're right now trying to strike that balancing act with. So to the information you're probably wanting to hear about. So the hospital zone. So we did break this out. So when the funding became available, thank you again for being kind of one of our inaugural funders, as we wanted to make sure we could kind of show what those zones were that provided the nexus to the funding, if you will. So we did the same thing with Tahoe Donner. We did the same thing with Glenshire with the money, and we broke out this hospital zone, which is essentially encompasses the hospital campus, but also just a little bit further and kind of a sphere of influence around the hospital as well. So the ridership we had within our first kind of pilot was about 6,000 passengers within the zone. Since we've gone town-wide and also expanded our hours, we had about 11,000 passengers over the last year, and this is still within that year. We're still counting passengers on a daily basis. So about 17,000 passengers have been carried to or from this zone. And you'll see down at the, fifth bullet there, the cost per passenger I showed you before was up in the teens there. This is actually one of our most productive zones in terms of cost per passenger. It's down to about $9 per passenger. So again, very, very productive. A high concentration of activities around here that people can do once they get here. They can walk across the street, they can go to Safeway, they can do, if they have the mobility needs, make other trips within this area. 26% down there on the bottom used Heart Connect also because they cannot drive, which I think is a huge thing. People, don't have access to a car. Maybe they have limited mobility during that time and can't use it also. Or during times of year that people with other impediments or mobility issues just don't want to drive during that time. The other thing that we saw in a survey, and I don't have it up here, but the council has latched onto, and something that's not so black and white when you look at it, is there was a high percentage of people that without Heart Connect, they would not have even made that trip. So during the winter, especially the last winter we had, or any winter in Tahoe or Truckee, is that, people get isolated. They don't have social connections sometimes. They can't get to the Bridge Club. They can't get to the Senior Center. They can't get to wherever they might be, the rec center. So without Heart Connect, they maybe would have been stayed home and not even made that trip. So we found that to be very, very enlightening. So this is again, kind of that hot spot. So the commercial core area or commercial row is that one to the right. And this is our zone. So I did break this out from an aerial so you guys could kind of see what that geographic area is. So the highlighted area is what constitutes the hospital zone. And again, that zone is one of our highest concentrations for origins and destinations. The rest of it's very, very kind of spread out, hit or miss. Also has to do with winter versus summer and those things. So we do look at all this information and try to make some sense of it, if you will. So long-term strategy. So this is a question within the community. It's a question within my council. It's a question I run through my own head here because we've been kind of coming back and passing the the hat around to collect money over the last 18 months, and everybody's been very, very willing. You know, if this program wasn't successful, I would be here telling you thank you very much. It was a great shot, and you know, we're gonna close up shop here, but it's been very well received. So council is contemplating the next year of continuing the program, and at the same time, we are looking at a potential ballot measure, and we have been very overt about that. It's been discussed at council, and we're doing some public opinion surveys to discuss what is the appetite for the community to continue this service. Are they willing to, I won't say tax themselves, but essentially that's what it is. Are they willing to continue this service through other means and a more sustainable financial model versus kind of, again, passing the hat around every couple of months, which has been, again, successful with our partners and being able to get everybody around the table. So some of the things we have also looked about, some of the strategies, is taking, right now we lease some of the vehicles. Some of those would be maybe we could use some of our new vehicles and give that to the other contractor as well and bring some of these costs down. So we're going to look at some ways to improve the service, but long-term, over the next couple of months, you will have more dialogue in the community about a potential revenue, additional revenue measure down the road. So that is our kind of path forward here to keep this program going. And I think that might be, yeah, so I want to thank you. We are contemplating about what other partners might be willing to, again, to contribute. So I will be frank and open about that. We are here to see if the town or the hospital is a continuing partner here, and I'm here to answer any other questions you may have.
Thank you for the presentation. Does our board have any questions about Tar Connect or the transportation system?
I just have a quick question. I had to turn this on right. So is the district boundary the city of Truckee or the town of Truckee?
The district, the hospital zone, is that what you're referring to?
No, your TARC Connect.
Yes, it is. It's the town limits.
Okay.
So it's the jurisdictional boundary of the town limits.
So you don't go outside the town limits?
We do not. You know, and I actually was just talking to somebody in the back of the room about, you know, why don't you go to the back of Sierra Meadows or Meadowview Place in those areas. You know, I mean, it's not within my purview to take money that's been allocated by the town council that's taxpayer dollars within the town of Truckee and to move people within Placer County. I know that sounds very bureaucratic, but we are talking to Placer County about whether we can kind of break down those geopolitical boundaries, if you will, and be able to serve those areas also. But right now, we are just within the town limits.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Knapp, you were talking about zones. Can you explain that? Are zones within the town of Truckee that certain vehicles are assigned to?
No, they're actually townwide. So there is models there are zones where a vehicle will just operate within that zone and then get somebody to, say, the depot, and then if they wanted to go to Glenshire, they would have to get on another vehicle. Right now, everything operates as one zone to the user. On the back end, we keep some separate zones, like the hospital zone, for accounting purposes, and just to isolate the ridership for that. But in terms of how the user uses it and sees it and the vehicles operate, it is townwide. You could make that trip from West End Beach to Glenshire if that was your trip at destination.
Anything else?
Yeah, just, well, a comment and a question. First off, thank you for all the data, so please don't apologize for it. It was fantastic information. Really helps us understand the benefits of the program. With regards to potential funding, are there discussions around marketing dollars? You know, could Tahoe Forest, quote, own 5 of the vehicles with our, Tahoe Forest on it?
So, yeah, that is not out of the question by any means. We actually do that. We did that with Visit Truckee Tahoe, so you'll see the sustainability or Sustainable Truckee logo on the side, and that was something we negotiated as part of their contribution. So that's not something that's off by any means off the table. And it's easy to do with the bus wraps or van wraps that can be done, as I'm sure some people know how these things are done, as we can make that adjustment if that was something that the board would be desire.
Yeah, it was more a general question. I was just using Tahoe Forest as an example, but it seems something businesses in general would be interested in.
Yeah, there's a
Sponsoring a
balance.
vehicle,
Yeah, we
so to
didn't
speak.
want, like NASCARs running around town with every logo or
They're
commercial.
everywhere else in life, right?
Yeah, exactly. But yes, if it is a kind of, quasi-governmental thing or something that's not necessarily a private business, we do have restrictions within our sign ordinances and codes about mobile signs, so that would be, but when it comes to something that's kind of a community benefit, that can be accommodated.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Any comments from our staff? Any comments from the, oh,
I would just say you guys are doing a great job. I use you all the time, so I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
any from our audience? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Knott.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank Alfred. I do hear from our nursing teams and staff, because we do not have, as we did before the pandemic, a vibrant taxi services cadre here anymore. So there is a lot of, I will tell you, Alfred, there is a lot of concern about the TART Connect program stopping, because we are heavy users internally to get patients from the hospital to home and sometimes to their appointments. So I hear that quite frequently. So we're going to be watching this, so.
Definitely a valuable service. We have another item for discussion, and that's our peak nursing program update. And we have Damara Stone, who's going to do the presentation.
All right, good evening, Board of Directors. My name is Damara Stone. I'm the Clinical Education Coordinator here at Tahoe Forest Health System. I've been a nurse here at Tahoe Forest for, it'll be 23 years in May. I spoke with you approximately a year ago, about the PEAK program, which was just 6 months old. Now we have a full year behind our belts here, and so I just want to share with you an update on how it's going. So just as a reminder what PEAK stands for, it is our Professional Excellence Advancement and Kudos program. It is our custom evidence-based clinical ladder here at Tahoe Forest. Our objectives for the program are really to elevate the professional and personal development of our staff nurses. And it is a voluntary program, so nurses can apply twice during the year. During the month of October and the month of March are the open application windows. And really, it's just a way for nurses to go above and beyond in their career and grow their career. But again, it's all voluntary, so only those that want to join. We have 3 levels, matching 3 of our local peaks here to go with the PEAK program theme. So level 1 is the MARTIS PEAK. This corresponds, why it says competent, proficient, and expert. It corresponds with a nursing model called Benner's novice to expert model that I used for, well, a lot of clinical ladders, nursing clinical ladders are built on Benner's novice to expert model. So level 1 is competent, and that's the equivalent bonus that the nurse achieves when they reach that goal. So the initial program goals, when I first designed the program, I made a goal for myself that there would be 10 to 20% participation in the first year, and then that it would grow in the next year up to 20 to 25% RN participation. So I'll show you what happened. For our first year in October of 2022, there was a total of 62 nurses that applied. So the goal was met, that's 22%. By 1 year later, there was some that had dropped off. There were, a few had faded out of the program. So we ended up with 48 total RNs, and out of those, 39 reached their goal of PEAK 1. So in March, this most recent open application window, we now have a total of 54 nurses in the program. So that's 19%, so just a little under that 20% goal. And in March, 10 nurses, 10 RNs reached PEAK 1. 1 physical therapist reached PEAK 1, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And then 9 RNs reached PEAK 2. So currently, again, we have 32 are on the trail towards PEAK 1. 20 have reached PEAK 20 reached PEAK 1 and are now headed towards their second peak. And then we have 2 nurses that reached peak 2, and they're continuing on to Mount Rose, which is the highest peak we have. These are the participating departments. So pretty much I feel like almost all nursing departments have at least one person in the peak program. Some of them only have one. For example, home health and hospice, they have just one nurse in it right now. Other departments have quite a high representation. Care coordination has a lot. So does women and family, the cancer center, and then the rest, there's just a handful here and there. Also this year, I've had a lot of interest from other departments asking if they can have the peak program for their departments as a clinical ladder. I worked with Therapy Services and Ryan Sahlberg, the director, and we rolled out peak for Therapy Services in October. So one physical therapist met her goal of peak 1, and there's about 23 that are in the program right now, and they are really loving it. So I just had an email yesterday from our lab saying, so when is lab going to get the peak program? So there are 4 categories in the peak program that nurses have to gain points in. The first category is caring compassion. I just put some bullet points of things that staff nurses had done this year to meet the points requirement for the caring and compassion category. The next category is competency, so they have to also get a minimum number of points in this category. Some of the things here, there's one nurse who is enrolled in her DNP. She presented a lunch and learn on her research project, which was really fascinating. Lots of nurses went and got certifications that are not required for their position but do benefit their position, so I listed some of those there. A lot of nurses have joined different councils and committees that they wouldn't have joined previously because they have, and there is, by the way, with each of these categories, they do have to present documentation and proof that they've done all these things. If they're going to claim points for being in a council or committee, they have to demonstrate that they're an active member of that committee, show that they are attending the meetings for the committee and that sort of thing. Community family, this is the third category they need to get points in. So here's another bunch of things, and I have 2 of my peak nurses are here tonight. We have Jackie Griffin from peak 2 and Lonnie Banducci from peak 1. And they will chat a little bit about some of their programs. Did I say your name wrong? Did I? Okay. So I'll invite them up in just a second. The last category is quality and evidence-based practice. So they have to also get points in these. A lot of them are joining their professional organizations, which is really cool. They're using their education funds to do that. And then, getting journals. We've had 2 nurses that have started a journal club, which is great. They get together and review academic articles that can help influence their practice. There's a lot of process improvement projects going on, people trying to eliminate double work and inefficiencies and things like that. They're attending conferences, they're presenting at staff meetings, they're doing a lot of really cool stuff. So just, I threw some new quotes. I know I gave you some quotes last year. These are some new quotes from participants, and I think one of these might be yours. So what I've found is what I do when a nurse is ready to submit their portfolio, and I brought 2 other portfolios as examples for you guys to take a look at. I meet with them, I have a rubric that I go over, and they share all of the stuff that they did. And then they also do a self-reflection piece where they write about their experience, what their challenges were, what their successes were, what resources they used. They can really, it's kind of free-form writing. And that is where I got some of these quotes from. While you guys read those, I will hand out a couple of the binders.
Thank you.
Actually, I think this quote right here, I think this was Lonnie.
Yeah.
I think that was from your self-reflection. So the K in the PEAK program stands for kudos, and I remember that was a question last year, is so how do we recognize these staff members? Well, they do get the bonus, which I think is the main way they get recognized. We also, I've put their names in the pace setter, but realizing that we need a better way to celebrate the nurses, I started this year with the first annual PEAK picnic and snowshoe. So kudos stands for praise given for achievement. I also wrote a press release for the local media, and that will be in the Sierra Sun, and I think, I'm not sure what other newspapers, but the marketing department is sending it out to our media to celebrate Nurses Week, which is coming up in May, just talking about the PEAK program. So we did our first PEAK hike. I had a lot of people RSVP'd, but then not as many showed up, but that's okay. It was the first try. So we had a really great time. We hiked out to Glacier Point. We had some kids come along, and a lot of these nurses had not worked together before, so it was actually really nice. We got to talk and get to know each other better. On the left is Cora Killian from Med-Surg, and then Tammy Melrose from Labor and Delivery, and then Sam, she's a nurse in urgent care, and Camille Beck, she is a primary care nurse. So these are our PEAK 1 Summit team from this March. So we have Lonnie, Camille, Monica, Bethany, and Chris, as well as Cora, Kevin, Kim, Tammy, Arlette, and Chelsea from physical therapy. And then our PEAK 2, our level 2 summit team, our Mount Judah summit team is Lilith, Hillary, Todd, Maria, she goes by Maria, not Fernanda, Molly, and Sandy, Jackie, Julie, and Derek. Jackie from Care Coordination and Lonnie are here, Lonnie from Primary Care. Would you guys like to share anything about your experience?
So,
There just comes to the microphone. We don't want to miss a word.
I am not afraid of public speaking, but, okay, so here's my binder. And the really great thing is Damara really makes you get organized. We meet with her on pretty regular basis, like every couple months. And, in care coordination, even Damara said this is a perfect project for care coordination because it's everything we do. But it also gets you more organized and motivates you, which I loved. And so, just getting together, like for category 1 with caring and compassion, I had a couple letters from my patients thanking me. So, it's nice to pull those out, and it just, feels good. And then for caring for the caregiver, which I love to do, that's why I love my job so much, is I facilitate the Building Better Caregiver classes. So that fit in perfectly, but just tried to really do more, right, with that. Like, I got to do one this period to get into my peak, right, as opposed to putting it off. And then I also started a caregiver support group in this room every third Friday, and that was something that I wanted to do for a long time. A lot of my patients and their families had asked me to do it, and I was waiting for someone else to do it, right? And then finally it was like, okay, let's just do this. And it's been really successful. We have, maybe 4 to 8 people here, but it's really a good, feel-good thing to do. I mean, it's so appreciated. So for that was caring and compassion. I got 8 points, and I met the requirement. And then with competency, I renewed my specialty certification in gerontological nursing. And I got points for my 29 years of nursing experience. Yoo-hoo! And then I got points for helping when my manager was out on sick leave.
So that's filling in for a manager or helping with any type of supervisory within your department. And then meeting that requirement with my points and, filling out the rubrics and writing something up too. So that was part of it too, is really looking at what did I learn when I was helping, out. And then category 3 was community and family. So I continued on from, what was the first peak? Martis? Right? Yeah, so the first peak in Martis is when I started the Wise Mind program after attending a conference and bringing that back and kind of putting that together. And so that just continued on. And actually, I'm doing it longer than I thought I would do. So again, kind of that motivation to just not end it and then be done with things, but to just keep it going. Because of peak and because of the response from the community. And then also, I got points during this, what was it, community family, virtual dementia tour, really cool. So I found out about this virtual dementia tour through my involvement with Placer County's Brain Health Initiative. And me and a coworker, Hillary, went and experienced it down in Auburn and then brought it back up here. And we had signups from ECC. So basically what a virtual dementia tour is you go through about a 10-minute maze of simulating having dementia. So you're putting on a glove that you can, barely, do anything. They've got like webbed hands. You have inserts in your shoes, so it feels like you have neuropathy, and you have glasses on that are blurry. You have headphones on that have lots of input, and then you go through a series of steps, and they tell you have to fill this pill bottle, set the table, and it's really amazing. And so we brought it back, because I thought I know everything about my population, but it gained so much compassion. So we brought it to ECC and the case management and care coordination staff, and they all went through the virtual dementia tour. So that was I think that was a highlight of my peak project, because I learned so much from it, and I was able to share it with my coworkers. And then 4 was quality. So me and some coworkers attended the American Society on Aging conference down in San Francisco in March, which was great. And we will be, again, bringing that back to ECC and the case management staff. And, who knows what will come out of that. We just found a lot of really creative ideas. Really cool stuff, like intergenerational orchestras and just a lot of really great ideas to bring to Truckee. And then I joined my ANA, American Nurses Association, and then taught the dietary department to the registered dietitians here have been interested in teaching our diabetic self-management class. So I am a leader, a master trainer in that. So we taught the 4 of our registered dietitians to teach the free diabetic self-management class. So that was really a great thing to do that I've been wanting to do again and got motivated to do it with this. So yeah, so I reached my peak. Ready to move on. So yeah.
And Lonnie, would you like to, you can just, do you have anything you want to share, just a comment or two about your experience?
Jackie. Could you come to the microphone?
I don't really like talking. Hi. Okay, yeah. Well, so I've worked for Tahoe Forest since 2011 on and off in different roles, and I haven't really been too involved in extra things, and Damaro really helped with this program. I finally feel like I'm finally getting involved, especially as a nurse. And I'm a nurse in primary care, which was like a relatively new position as of, when we got our new space. So I started there right when we opened. So we've kind of been not flailing. I mean, we're kind of like the catch-all, the nurses there, like we do it all. So this project, I think for me and Camille, who's the other primary care nurse, it kind of helped to define our role. I mean, we've been working on that for almost 2 years now, and it's ever changing. But for me, it kind of brought back my passion to nursing because I was kind of getting a little burnout at bedside and with COVID and all that. And I was like, oh, was primary care really the right decision for me? Now I don't really know what I'm doing. And this, like I told Damara, it kind of brought back my compassion, like in caring for patients. And it helped me identify the needs in the primary care clinic, which for me, I kind of focused on mental health and suicide ideation because it's really, really prevalent in our community, and we get the calls. When behavioral health isn't available, we're kind of they call their doctor, right? And we end up talking to them. So I felt like we needed to arm our clinic with more tools and more training. So I was able to, through meetings and research, I found a program called START, and it's a 90-minute online training that I thought, and I actually talked to all of our staff, including our front desk, even the providers were kind of on board. And so Sandy Walker actually submitted that into the budget to hopefully get that paid for all of our staff to complete. It's relatively cheap, but hopefully they approve that and everyone's able to do that because I think it'd be really helpful just to arm more people with the ability to help our community do that. So it's a great program. I'm going to try to keep going. It's always hard to find. That was my biggest negative was finding the time, right, to add on to this with our already, I'm sure Jackie is already very busy with everything we do, but it did kind of push me and Camille to really focus on finding projects that we need to put in place. And I think our clinic feels like it's running smoother, and it just, it was really awesome and helpful, and I really enjoyed it. So, yeah, thanks, Tamara. She's amazing.
All right, so that's our peak update for the spring. I really thank you for coming. I really appreciate that. And for me, it was just a desire to celebrate the staff, celebrate the staff that are already going above and beyond. And also, like Lonnie mentioned, if you're kind of you see some issues, but you don't really know where to start or how to guide yourself that way, it gives that foundation for people to engage in. So I'm pretty proud of it and really have loved working with all these nurses. So thank you.
You should be very proud of it tomorrow. Before you leave, we've got maybe some comments or questions from our staff or our board.
Wow. This is one of those really wow moments. And I think I speak for the other board members here. This is kind of our mission moment too. The energy and enthusiasm and what have you that has been exhibited here, it's just unbelievable. And Damara, to be the catalyst for this, this program, you should just kudos to you.
Thank you.
It's just absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'd echo the same thought.
Wow. I'm blown away.
And I'm really excited, too, to hear that it's moving on beyond nurses. I think in the past, we've always had career ladders, and nurses tend to get onto it. But to be able to take it to other departments and to have things like our process improvement projects being worked on. I mean, our staff and our administrative people are always talking about their PI teams, but to hear it from you guys has really been really heartwarming that the frontline people are interested and they want to do, and you know where the problems lie. So thank you again.
And for those of you who don't know, Damara is also deeply involved, not only in outreach to our in-house community, to the outside community. She's organizes with the Winter Injury Symposium, followed by specific case studies that are very instrumental in educating our search and rescue and police and fire and first responders, I guess is really what you call them. And so my hat's off to you for that work too, Deborah.
Thank you. Thanks, Dale.
Thank you again.
All right, thank you.
Now we'll move on to item 15, which is for board action, and this is Resolution 2024-3, and Ted Owens will tell us about it.
Well, first I would like Chair Wong to read the resolution. I'm just kidding. This is largely ministerial. You've seen these before. This is required by the Government Code and Elections Law, whereby you notify the counties of intent to run in the general election. In this particular case, we have 2 seats up this year for regular 4-year terms, Director Barnett and Chair Wong. And this language largely, if David may correct me, but is required by law to be in this resolution. And so we don't need to go through a lot of it. It's stated when you run, you would see a lot of this with your information provided by the county elections office. But we are required to submit it. Otherwise, you leave yourself at great danger of perhaps the hands of the boards of supervisors in selecting
I can just correct Mr. Owens. So nobody is declaring their candidacy with this?
No, that's right.
Okay.
But it does say in the resolution,
the offices.
those are the seats that you occupy. Okay.
And,
Right.
yeah, so we're just requesting that the election be consolidated with the statewide general election, and indicating what the offices are that are being.
That's right.
And Placer County and Nevada County will take care of the election and the votes.
That's right.
Accumulating them and letting us know.
And the provision that allows the boards of supervisors to appoint is only when there is a vacancy that is not filled by this board. Or
After I read the resolution, I was kind of curious. If this resolution does not pass, what happens? Not that that'll happen, but come on, what's the theoretical?
I mean, that's a good question.
We have to run the election.
Yeah.
Okay, why don't we take that offline tomorrow?
Well,
My recommendation is to pass the resolution.
I would imagine that somebody might bring a writ of mandate to compel the district to bring the election, because otherwise there would be a failure to have an election, and you guys would just be holdovers or something.
Holdovers. Okay,
I'm not
we
gonna
do have an item to vote on. So can I have a motion to approve Resolution 2024-03 for the Board of, a resolution determining consolidating the hospital district general election with a statewide general election, and authorize the canvass of the returns by the respective boards of supervisors of Placer and Nevada County.
So moved, Dale.
Second.
Public comment?
Okay.
We have public comment?
Yep, well, I thought you were calling public
Yeah.
comment. Okay, if there's no public comment, then we can proceed to the vote. All in favor of passing Resolution 2024, say aye.
Since it's a resolution, doesn't have to be individual.
Yeah, roll call, I think, isn't that right?
It doesn't have to be, no.
Oh,
Okay.
But we will, since you brought it up. And
I was going to be impressed if you actually knew that.
and we'll all practice saying aye. Okay.
Director Barnett.
Aye.
Director Chandler.
Aye.
Director Brown.
yes.
Director McGarrett.
Aye.
Chair Wong.
Aye. So the resolution has passed, and that will be submitted to who? To the counties? Or?
To the counties, yes.
All right. There was nothing really pulled from our consent calendar that needs to be followed up on. Our next item is board committee reports, and I think we've had a finance committee meeting.
Yes, yes, we did. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the things we determined was that the Chandler investments are laddered in a fashion that we can draw on those funds without incurring a penalty for selling below market rate. And those funds obviously can be used for the expansion in the Rite Aid and Gateway. that's not to say that we wouldn't borrow money too, but at least we have that option available to us. And I hope all of you noticed we did review the financials for March and year-to-date. Year-to-date EBITDA is 3 times the budget, and our net position is almost 4 times the budget. So we're heading for another stellar year. That's all I've got.
Thank you for that. Do we have any foundation reports?
Yeah, the hospital foundation met, but it was, they've changed their meeting structure to where this was an offsite.
Oh.
And the intent was to be a much more informal sort of brainstorming session, so not a lot of items to report on, a lot of discussion around upcoming events, ways, up to and including what should the tables look like. So I won't report out on that, because it was a heated discussion on, 8 or 10 rounds, what do you go with? But I think it was, at the end though, it was really effective. So I think the foundation is still trying to find what's the best way that they work efficiently, and coming into this setting to have a formal board meeting, they felt was very agenda-driven, didn't really facilitate a lot of creative thinking, which is a lot of the work that they do around events and whatnot. So overall, everyone was really pleased with that structure, so I think they'll carry that forward with alternating between structured board meetings here and then some offsites occasionally.
Thank you for that.
The Irvine Foundation also met, and they're wrestling with another fundraiser. They feel that at this point the Beach Boys have been eliminated, as they think they've taken all they can from them, but they've raised a lot of money, and trying to figure out what kind of a musical or even a non-musical performance on the beach might draw a similar giving crowd. So anyway, they're wrestling with that. I also mentioned at Finance Committee meeting that one of the members of the Irvine Board, Incline Board, also.
Yeah, I was wondering which meeting you'd gone to.
Are you inviting on us?
Irvine, yeah. He also indicated that the governor of Nevada has money to give away, and he feels that the hospital should be making a bid to get some of these funds. Not likely that's going to happen at this point, because we don't have a specific need for them, and it doesn't seem appropriate that we would ask for something if we didn't have a specific program or plan or building or something that we needed to do. So that's put on the back burner for right now.
Thank you for that. If that's all the committee reports we have, then we can move on to any board members have any other reports or any closing remarks they want to make. Okay, hearing none, then we will adjourn open session, and is it
We will
adjourned?
move into closed session under item 5.5, which was a public employee performance evaluation, president and CEO.
Okay. So do we,
You want to take a 5-minute break?
yeah, break.
Yeah.